this video, I will discuss the four events happening in a 4-stroke and 2-stroke diesel engine. In the intake stroke, the piston is traveled downward as the intake valve opens and a mixture of air from the atmosphere and the metered amount of gas from the electronic fuel injector into the cylinder. In the compression stroke, the piston travels upward, compressing the air and fuel mixture, and when it is being compressed, it causes the temperature and pressure increases or rises, and that makes the ignition easier and combustion more complete. In the combustion stroke, while the piston is at the top dead center, the compressed air and fuel is ignited by a spark plug, causes it to explode, and as it expands, it pushes the piston downward. This stroke produces a mechanical work from the engine to turn the crankshaft. In the exhaust stroke, as the piston travels upward, the exhaust valve is open to release the borne air and fuel mixture. When the piston reaches at the top of this stroke, the intake valve is open and the cycle.
Hi sir, I'm Mark Edward Gedan from PIT-BSMarE 3B, and I'm here to explain to you about the different events of a 4-stroke and 2-stroke diesel engine. So let's start in 4-stroke. A 4-stroke diesel engine is a type of internal combustion engine that completes 4 separate cycles while turning the crankshaft. This includes intake, also known as the suction, compression, the piston is from the bottom dead center going to the top dead center, combustion, and exhaust. While in 2-stroke is also a type of internal combustion engine that completes the power cycle with 2-stroke of the piston during one crankshaft revolution. This type of engine is where the end of the combustion stroke and the beginning of the compression stroke happen simultaneously, with the exhaust and the intake functions occurring at the same time. That's all, sir. Thank you.
How 2-stroke and a 4-stroke engine works. In a 2-stroke engine, the piston moves upward, compressing the air mixture, and the compressed air is ignited in the combustion chamber caused by the spark plug. As soon as the air is ignited, the hot gases force the piston to move downward, rotating the crankshaft. The burnt gases escape through the exhaust port. As soon as the transfer port opens, a new air mixture enters in the cylinder. While in the 4-stroke engine, the piston moves downward and the air is sucked into the cylinder. The air is compressed as the piston moves upward. The expansion of gases due to the heat of combustion exerts the pressure on the piston, and the piston forced to move downward. Then the remaining gases are pushed to the atmosphere as the piston moves upward.
In diesel engines, the 4 events includes intake, compression, combustion, and exhaust, which are present in one cycle. In 2-stroke diesel engine, as the piston goes down, it will be the intake of the process followed by compression as it goes up, creating combustion, and then exhaust the burnt gases. The cycle was done in just 2 piston movements, whereas in the 4-stroke diesel engine, the first piston movement represents the intake, followed by compression as the second movement, ignited, creating combustion, and then the piston is pulled back down, resulting in the third movement, and finally goes up for the exhaust process. The cycle was completed with 4 piston movements, and that will be all. Thank you.
So guys, we'll talk about how 4 events of 2-stroke and 4-stroke engine work. In 2-stroke engine, the complete sequence is complete in 2 cycles: the suction and the compression stroke, and the power and exhaust. In suction and compression stroke, the upward movement of the piston draws fresh air inside and compresses the air-fuel mixture. In power and exhaust stroke, the downward movement of the piston due to the explosion inside the chamber, followed by the removal of exhaust through the exhaust valve. Now we'll proceed to the 4-stroke engine.
Hello! In this video, we're going to explore how 2-stroke and 4-stroke diesel engine works. For the intake stroke, the piston from the top dead center of the cylinder will drop into the bottom dead center, and it will create a vacuum that pulls the air or fuel inside the cylinder. For the 4-stroke engine, the air comes in through the open intake valve, while the 2-stroke engine, the air comes in through holes called scavenging ports. For the compression stroke, the piston rises again into the top dead center, hence compressing the air inside the cylinder. For the 4-stroke engine, both the intake and the exhaust valve are closed to allow compression. The mixture air and fuel makes it hotter due to pressure. In the power stroke, the hot, compressed air will ignite the fuel injected into the cylinder. This will cause an explosion, and then the piston will be thrusted downwards again. Finally, in the exhaust stroke, the exhaust valve opens up to let out the exhaust air from the explosion. These 4 strokes occur for the both engines, but the only difference is that the 2-stroke engines needs only 1 revolution for it to complete all the strokes, while for the 4-stroke engines, you need to have 2 revolution for it to complete the all strokes. So, I hope you learned something in this video. That's all. Thank you.
Good day, sir. In this video, I will discuss the process of a 4-stroke and a 2-stroke diesel engines. In the 4-stroke diesel engine, the first process will be the intake stroke, where the piston moves down and allows the air to enter into the combustion chamber. Compression stroke, where the piston moves back up, compressing the gases within. Next, the combustion stroke. A spark from the spark plug ignites the gases, which causes the piston goes downward. Lastly, the exhaust stroke, where the piston goes back up, exhausting the waste heat into the exhaust valve. In the 2-stroke diesel engines, the same step happens. However, it only requires 2 piston movements because the exhaust and intake of gas occurs simultaneously. Overall, it contains 2 processes. First is the compressor stroke and the inlet port open, where the air and fuel mixture enters and the piston moves upward to compress it. A spark plug then ignites it. So second is the power stroke. The heated gas exerts high pressure on the piston, moving it downward, exhausting the waste heat.
2-stroke engine operation. As the piston is compressing the fuel-air mixture to its upward stroke, a fresh intake charge is being sucked into the crankcase. The compressed mixture, fired by correctly timed electric spark, burns and expands, driving the piston down. The burned gases leave the cylinder via the now uncovered exhaust port. The fresh intake charges help to push out those burned gases. In the 4-stroke engine, there are 4 events. The intake stroke. The piston moves downward to allow the fuel-air mixture to enter. The compression stroke. The intake valve is closed. The piston moves up, compressing the fuel-air mixture, and the start plug is activated to begin the combustion. The compression stroke. The heat released from the combustion increases the pressure, pushing the piston down, which creates the power output. And lastly, the exhaust stroke. When the piston reaches the bottom, the exhaust valves open, letting the exhaust gases or burn gases out.
Stroke and 4-stroke diesel engine. In 2-stroke diesel engine, as the piston moves towards the bottom dead center and covers the inlet port, allowing the air inside the cylinder. As the piston moves upward, it covers the inlet port and exhaust valve is closed. The piston compresses the air, making it into higher temperature. Fuel is injected into the cylinder, and the heat of compression of air ignited the fuel. The pressure from extending of gases forces the piston to move down, but before it reaches to the bottom dead center, the exhaust valve is open and exhaust gases escape in the cylinder, and the cycle repeated again. In 4-stroke diesel engine, it has a cycle of 4-stroke: intake, compression, power, and exhaust. In intake, the piston moves down. Inlet is open and the air enters inside the cylinder. As the piston moves up, inlet and exhaust valve is closed. The piston compresses the air, making it in the higher temperature. Fuel is injected into the chamber and mixed in the hot air and ignited. In this time, combustion occurs. Gas is expanded and forces the piston to move down, and exhaust valve is open. As the piston moves upward, it forces the exhaust gases outside the cylinder, and the cycle repeated again.
We're going to talk about the difference between 2-stroke and 4-stroke. Hoo-hoo! In a 2-stroke engine, it has 1 revolution that completes the 4 events that happens in a diesel engine. While in a 4-stroke engine, it has 2 revolutions, and by the name it implies, in every stroke, it has 1 event. The first event or the first stroke is for the intake of air and fuel mixtures. The second is for the compression. The third is for the combustion or the expansion, and the fourth is for the exhaust. And for the method of inlet and outlet, the 2 strokes uses ports and the 4-stroke uses valves. And for the efficiency of engine, the 2 strokes are less efficient and generate more smokes, while the 4 strokes are more efficient and generate less smoke. And for the power to weight ratio, the 2 strokes has more power to weight ratio than the 4-stroke engine. And that's 1 minute. See you tomorrow.
Good day, sir. The 4 events of 2-stroke and 4-stroke engine are actually the same. The intake, the compression, the combustion, and the exhaust. In 2-stroke, the intake and compression process happens in upstroke movement of piston, wherein fresh air fills inside the cylinder and compresses it, followed by the drowning of fuel. Then, downstroke for the combustion and exhaust happens due to the explosion, followed by the release of burned
So, good day, sir. In the four-stroke diesel engine, the first event is intake, where the air is drawn inside the cylinder, and the second event is when the piston moves up and compresses the air inside the cylinder and the certain amount of heat level. In the third event is the combustion, where the pulverized diesel fuel is injected inside the cylinder mixed with the compressed air. Chemical reaction happens and combustions take place. And the last event is the exhaust, where gases are expelled from the combustion and released into the atmosphere. In the two-stroke engine, the end of the combustion stroke and the beginning of the compression stroke happen simultaneously, with the intake and exhaust or scavenging function occurring at the same time. First stroke is the air is drawn inside it and compresses it at the same time, and the second stroke is the pulverized diesel fuel is being injected together with the compressed air, and combustion takes place, and at the same time it releases the gas when combustion happens.
The four-stroke diesel engine. First stroke is the suction stroke. The piston moves downward and the inlet valve opens, allowing air to enter, and the exhaust valve is closed. Second stroke is the compression stroke. The piston moves upward, compressing the air and fuel mixture, making a highly combustible mixture. Third is the combustion stroke. The spark plug ignites the highly combustible mixture of air and fuel, making the piston moves downward. Fourth is the exhaust stroke. The piston moves upward and the exhaust valve opens, releasing the burned air and fuel, and the inlet valve is closed. Stroke diesel engine. First stroke is when the piston is positioned at the top dead center. The cylinder contains a highly compressed air, and then fuel is injected and ignites immediately, causing the piston to move downward. Second stroke is when the piston is near to its bottom. The exhaust valve is open and releasing all the borne gases. When the piston is in the bottom dead center, the inlet valve is open, allowing air to enter. When the piston moves upward, the air is compressed.
Let's talk about the four-stroke cycle and the two-stroke cycle. The four-stroke cycle is composed of 4 stages and 2 revolutions of crankshaft. The first stage is the intake, on which the pressure is drawn toward the cylinder as the piston moves down. And the second stage is the compression, on which as the piston moves up, it will compress the fresh air and the fuel is injected. And the third stage is the combustion, where the mixture of the fuel and the compressed air pushes down the piston. And then the fourth stage is the exhaust, where as the piston moves up, it will release the exhaust through the exhaust valve. Then let's talk about the two-stroke cycle. The two-stroke cycle is, the working principle is the same to the four-stroke cycle. The only difference is that in the two-stroke cycle, in every revolution of crankshaft, there is a power, and then it has no exhaust valve, no inlet valve, but only ports.
The two-stroke engine only requires one cycle in order to generate power. Exhaust and intake of the gas occurs at the same time. As the inlet port opens, the air-fuel mixture enters the chamber and the piston moves upwards, compressing this mixture. A spark plug ignites the compressed fuel and begins the power stroke. The heated gas exerts high pressure on the piston moves downward, and waste heat is exhausted. A four-stroke engine delivers one power stroke for every 2 cycles of the piston, so 1:2. The piston moves downward, allowing the air-fuel mixture to enter the chamber. The intake valve is closed, the piston moves up to the top and compresses the mixture. At the end of the stroke is a spark plug providing activation energy to begin combustion. At the end of the fuel combustion, the heat release increases high pressure, which causes the gas to push down on the piston and create the power output. As the piston reaches the bottom, the exhaust valve opens and exhaust gas is pushed out by the piston as it moves back upwards.
Let's talk about how the 4 events in 4-stroke and 2-stroke engine works. In 4-stroke engine, as the piston moves downward, the fuel air mixture will be sucked in the inlet valve and the exhaust valve remains closed. In its compression stroke, all valves are closed. As the piston moves upward, the fuel air mixture is compressed. It will be then ignited or will ignite the process combustion, which makes up the power stroke. As the piston moves upward, the burnt gas will be blown away through the exhaust valve that makes up the exhaust stroke. In 2-stroke engine, as the piston moves upward simultaneously, the inlet port will charge the fuel air mixture in the crankcase, and the transport and the exhaust port will block. The fuel air mixture is compressed. It will be then ignited and causing process combustion, which makes up the power stroke. As the piston moves downward, the exhaust port and the transport port will open, and the inlet port will be closed. The charged fuel air mixture will push the burnt gases through the transfer port and pushes the burn gases through the exhaust port. That's all about the 4 events in 4-stroke and 2-stroke engine works.
4-stroke and 2-stroke engine. 4-stroke engine, 2-stroke of piston good for 1 revolution. First, the air and fuel mixture is drawn inside the cylinder. Second, the piston will push the air and fuel mixture. As the piston reach a top dead center, the spark plug will ignite the fuel air mixture, forcing the piston to go down. Lastly, the exhaust valve will open and pushes the burnt gases. While in 2-stroke, 1 stroke of piston good for 1 revolution. First, the upstroke or the combustion stage, where the air and fuel mixture is ignited by spark plug, forcing the piston to go down and letting the burn gases to out.
Stroke engine cycle. First, the intake. The piston moves from the top dead center to bottom, drawing air from the inlet while the exhaust is closed. So in the compression, the upward movement of the piston causes the air-fuel mixture to be compressed upwards towards the spark plug. Power. This is the time that the ignition is occurred because the fuel-air mixture and the spark plug can cause combustion, and the energy result from that as force the piston goes downward. And the exhaust, this is the last step where the exhaust valve is open and the exhaust gas is forced out by the returning piston. Second is the 2-stroke engine cycle. The air fuel mixture drawn in the intake valve and it will mix up in the crankcase. At the same time, the mixture is compressed and ignited by the spark plug in the combustion chamber, and the piston goes down by the energy and the air fuel mixture comes in that forced combustion gases out.
Morning, sir. On this video we'll talk about the 4-stroke and the 2-stroke diesel engines. First will be the 4-stroke diesel engine. On this first stroke, it is called the intake stroke, where the inlet valve is open, pushing down the piston because the air is let in. Second will be the compression stroke, where the piston moves back up, compressing the air. Third will be the combustion stroke, where the fuel will be injected and at the right time will be ignited, which push down the piston. On the last stroke will be the exhaust stroke, where the piston moves back up, pushing out the exhaust from the combustion out of the exhaust valve. 2-stroke diesel engine, it only needs 2 strokes, where the piston moves up, compressing the air, and the fuel is injected and at the right time is ignited, which causes it to combust, which pushes down the piston. And while it is moving down, at a certain point the exhaust valve is open, which expels the combustion gases out of the chamber. And while it is continuing to move down, the inlet ports will be exposed, which the air is admitted to the chamber, and the cycle will start again.
Diesel engine. First compressions creates combustions as piston reaches its TDC that leaves a combusted fuel mixture. At the same time, intake valve opens to supply fuel mixture. As piston expands, it closes the intake valve and opens the exhaust valve and pushes the fuel mixtures for another combustion. And that fuel mixtures pushes the combusted fuel, then close the exhaust valve. Then the cycle repeats. Piston moves downward. This increases the volume, allow the fuel-air mixtures enter the chamber. Compression. Intake valve closes and the piston up to the chamber. This compresses the fuel-air mixtures, and the combustion occurs by the use of spark plug. As the piston reaches the bottom, the exhaust valve opens, and the remaining exhaust gas will push out.
2-stroke engine. Intake begins when the piston is near bottom dead center. Air is admitted by a blower to the cylinder through one port in the cylinder wall. It also to force out the remaining combustion gases. As the piston moves up, it compresses the air and the fuel is injected. Expansion of gases occur, moving the piston downward, opening the ports for the release of combustion gases, then the cycle repeats again. 4-stroke engine. Intake. The piston moves from the top dead center to the bottom dead center, drawing air from the inlet valve while the outlet valve is closed. In compression, the piston moves from the bottom dead center to the top dead center, which compresses the air, making to increase the pressure and temperature. The fuel injector sprays fuel into the hot compressed air, then it burns. All valves are closed. Working stroke. The burning of the fuel creates an expansion of the gas making the piston to move from the top dead center to the bottom dead center. This also known as the power stroke. Exhaust. The outlet valve is now open, ready to release the burned gases as the piston moves up, pushing this gas to go out. So two-stroke engine. Intake begins when the piston is near bottom dead center. Air is admitted by a blower to the cylinder through one port in the cylinder wall. It also to force out the remaining combustion gases. As the piston moves up, it compresses the air and the fuel is injected. Expansion of gases occur, moving the piston downward, opening the ports for the release of combustion gases, then the cycle repeats again. Four-stroke engine. Intake. The piston moves from the top dead center to the bottom dead center, drawing air from the inlet valve while the outlet valve is closed. In compression, the piston moves from the bottom dead center to the top dead center, which compresses the air, making to increase the pressure and temperature. The fuel injector sprays fuel into the hot compressed air, then it burns. All valves are closed. Working stroke. The burning of the fuel creates an expansion of the gas, making the piston to move from the top dead center to the bottom dead center. This also known as the power stroke. Exhaust. The outlet valve is now open, ready to release the burned gases as the piston moves up, pushing this gas to go out.
The events in the 2 and 4-stroke diesel engine follow the same 4 sequence of events. In the 4-stroke, the first one is the intake, in which the air enters the engine, and followed by the compression of the air, in which it creates heat. And then the third one is the injection of fuel, which creates combustion, and the fourth one is the exhaust. In the 2-stroke diesel engine, it followed the same 4 sequence of event of the 4-stroke diesel engine, but only in 1 revolution, the engine.
Simple terms, in a 2-stroke diesel engine, the 4 cycles of combustion, intake, compression, ignition, and exhaust occur in 1 complete revolution, whereas in a 4-stroke diesel engine, these occur in 2 complete revolutions. So in comparison, a 4-stroke diesel engines are heavier. They weigh upwards of 50% more than a comparable 2-stroke engine. Typically, a 2-stroke diesel engine creates more torque at a higher RPM, while a 4-stroke diesel engine creates a higher torque at a lower RPM. Lastly, a 2-stroke diesel engine requires a pre-mixing of oil and fuel, while a 4-stroke diesel engines do not. That's 1 minute. See you again next time. So this is your online kabaro, Shkil Onel D. Guzman of PIT-BSMarE 3 Alpha.
4-stroke diesel engine. As the name 4-stroke, there are mainly 4 processes to complete 1 cycle. First stroke is the suction stroke, in which the air is sucked by the piston into the cylinder and the cylinder filled with air. Next is compression stroke. The air is compressed by the piston from the bottom dead center to the top dead center. Next is the expansion stroke. The injector injects fuel diesel in the compressed air, which gives a large heat energy and a large force on the piston. Lastly is the exhaust stroke. Burn gases will get out from the outlet valve. So let's move to the 2-stroke diesel engine. The first event is intake, in which a blower forces air alone into the cylinder. Next is compression. It squeezes the air into a small volume. This is when a fuel is sprayed into the chamber. Next is the ignition. Just as with the 4-stroke diesel engine, the heat of the compressed air ignites to the mixture of air and fuel. Lastly is exhaust. Burn gases will be removed so that there should no any particles present inside. Thank you.
4-stroke engine, the first is the intake stroke. The piston goes down, the air goes in. Then the second is the compression stroke. When the piston goes up, the air compresses. Then the fuel injector injects fuel to the air, which will ignite and expand. Then the piston goes down. That is the power stroke. Then the 4th stroke is the exhaust. When the piston goes up, it discharges the exhaust gas. 2-stroke engine, the first stroke, when the piston goes down, the air intake goes in. Then the piston goes up, compresses the air. When it reaches the top dead center, the fuel injector injects air, then ignites. The second stroke, when the piston goes down, as it reaches the bottom dead center, the exhaust valve opens, then the exhaust gas discharge.
So today guys, I'll show you the 4 events in 2-stroke engine and 4-stroke engine. Let's start. Assuming that we have already sucked some fuel-air mixture into the combustion chamber, the piston moves up from the bottom dead center and compresses the mixture and increases its pressure and temperature, which is called compression. And then there is a spark plug that creates spark to create ignition. And boom, we have a power stroke. Due to that, the piston is forced to move downwards, making the used air to exhaust and new air to be sucked. 4-stroke engine, as the piston moves downward, the inlet valve is opened for the air to be sucked, which is suction. And when the piston goes up again for another stroke, it increases the temperature, or so-called compression. Once the air is already hot, there is a fuel injector that injects fuel, and by that mixture, it will create an ignition or expansion. Piston moves up again, it will.
Hello, in this video we're going to explore how 2-stroke and 4-stroke diesel engine works. For the intake stroke, the piston from the top dead center of the cylinder will drop into the bottom dead center and it will create a vacuum that pulls the air or fuel inside the cylinder. For the 4-stroke engine, the air comes in through the open intake valve, while the 2-stroke engine, the air comes in through holes called scavenging ports. For the compression stroke, the piston rises again into the top dead center, hence compressing the air inside the cylinder. For the 4-stroke engine, both the intake and the exhaust valve are closed to allow compression. The mixture, air, and fuel makes it hotter due to pressure. In the power stroke, the hot, compressed air will ignite the fuel injected into the cylinder. This will cause an explosion, and then the piston will be thrusted downwards again. Finally, in the exhaust stroke, the exhaust valve opens up to let out the exhaust air from the explosion. These 4 strokes occur for the both engines, but the only difference is that the 2-stroke engines needs only 1 revolution for it to complete all the strokes, while for the 4-stroke engines, you need to have 2 revolutions for it to complete the all strokes. So, I hope you learned something in this video. That's all. Thank you.
So guys, I'm gonna show you the 4 events in 2-stroke and 4-stroke diesel engine. Let's start. So let's assume that it is a piston. As it moves downward to the bottom dead center, it sucks air, that is suction. So as it moves up, it compresses the air, which causes the increase of temperature and pressure, and that is compression. And by that, there's a fuel injector that injects fuel, which causes ignition. And due to that, the piston is forced to move downward, making the air be exhausted and new air to be sucked. As the piston moves downward, the inlet valve sucks air, that is suction. And as it moves up, it compresses the air, making the temperature and pressure increased, and that is compression. And by that, the fuel injector injects fuel that causes ignition. And by that ignition, the piston is forced to move downward, that is expansion. And the piston moves up again to exhaust the used air in the exhaust valve.
This engine is an example of a 4-stroke diesel engine which requires 4-stroke to complete 1 engine cycle. Intake stroke, draw air fuel to combustion chamber. Compression stroke, compressed the air. Power stroke, ignited the compressed air. Exhaust stroke, cleared the borne air and fuel in the combustion chamber. This is a 2-stroke engine which is the same as the 4-stroke engine that has 4 cycles, only that in this engine only 2 strokes to complete 1 engine cycle. The first stroke is the compression stroke and the second stroke is the power stroke.
Good day sir, the first process in a 4-stroke diesel engine is the intake stroke, where the piston moves downward, allowing a mixture of fuel and air in the combustion chamber. Then the compression stroke, where the piston moves back up again, compressing the gases within. Next, the combustion stroke, where the spark from a spark plug ignites the gases and moving the piston downward. Lastly, the exhaust stroke, where the piston goes back up again, exhausting the waste heat in the exhaust valve. In a 2-stroke engine, the same step happens, however, it only requires 2 piston movements because the intake and exhaust of gases occur simultaneously. Overall, it only has 2 processes. First, the compression stroke, where the inlet valves open, allowing the air-fuel mixture to enter, then the piston moves back up, compressing the mixture. A spark from the spark plug ignites the compressed fuel. Second, the power stroke. The heated gas exerts high pressure on the piston, moving it downward and exhausting the waste heat.
So good day, sir. Let me discuss about the difference event of the two-stroke and the four-stroke engine. Let me start with two-stroke engine. The two-stroke engine, there are two strokes. The first stroke, there are three events: the intake of the air-fuel mixture, its compression, and combustion. In the second stroke, there are also three events: the expansion, the refilling of the air-fuel mixture, and the exhausting of the burned air-fuel mixture. And that's all for the two-stroke. And let's go to the four-stroke engine. In the four-stroke engine, there are four strokes. First stroke is the intake. In the intake stroke, the intake valve will open, allowing the air fuel mixture to enter, and the exhaust valve is closed and the piston will move downward. In the compression stroke, the two piston is closed and the piston will move upward, making the air fuel mixture to be compressed. And in the power stroke, because of the spark plug, the air fuel mixture will be ignited and the piston will move downward. And next is the exhaust stroke. In the exhaust stroke, the exhaust valve will open and the intake valve is closed, and the piston.
The four-stroke cycle diesel engine have four strokes. First is the suction stroke, where the piston moves to the bottom dead center of the cylinder, causing the air to enter. Second is the compression stroke, where the air is compressed due to the upward motion of the cylinder, and then the fuel is added, causing it to burn. The third is the working stroke, where the piston moves downward due to combustion. And the last is the exhaust stroke, where the piston moves to the top dead center, pushing out the exhaust gas. While the two-stroke cycle diesel engine only have compression stroke and working stroke. During the compression stroke, the piston moves upward, compressing the air and also covering the transfer port. As the temperature of air reaches the self-ignition point, the fuel is added just before the end of the stroke, causing it to burn. Then the working stroke, the piston moves downward due to combustion, at the same time uncovering the exhaust port where the gases escapes.
Just gonna stand there and watch me burn. Well, that's alright, because I like the way it hurts. Just gonna stand there and hear me cry. Well, that's alright, because I love the way you lie. I love the way you lie.
I can't tell you what it really is, I can only tell you what it feels like. And right
Pearly shell from the ocean, shining in the sun, covering the shore. When I see them, my heart tells me that I love you more than all.
Hey TikTok, today we're going to talk about the four events that occur in a four-stroke and two-stroke diesel engine operation. The entire process involves the stroke, which is the movement of the piston from top dead center to bottom dead center or vice versa. The entire cycle has four events: the intake, compression, combustion, and exhaust. In a four-stroke diesel engine, these four events require four strokes and two rotations of the crankshaft. The intake, where the fresh air is sucked in; compression, where the sucked air is compressed, increasing pressure and temperature; combustion, where the fuel injected burns upon contact with the high temperature compressed air; and lastly, exhaust, where the unburned fuel gas particles are released to the exhaust system. Notice that each event happened in each stroke. However, in a two-stroke diesel engine, these four events occur only in two strokes and one rotation of the crankshaft. In the first stroke, intake and compression occurs, which is followed by combustion and exhaust on the second stroke, while the crankshaft completes a single rotation.
In four-stroke engine, four up and down motions are needed to complete the cycle. In intake stroke, the piston travels downward as the intake valve opens with a mixture of air in the atmosphere and amount of gas from the fuel injector into the cylinder. Compression stroke, the piston moves upward, compressing the air and fuel to make a highly combustible mixture. At this point, the spark plug fires, sending the piston downward from the expansion of air and fuel of mixture. In exhaust stroke,
the piston moves upward, then the exhaust valves open to release the burnt air fuel mixtures, then the cycle continues. In two-stroke engine, 1 revolution is equal to 1 power stroke, so only 2 process. In a compression stroke, the inlet ports opens, the air-fuel mixtures enter the chamber, and then the piston moves upward, compressing this mixture. Then, it will be ignited with the spark plug, then the power stroke begins.
How are the 4 events in two-stroke diesel engine and 4-stroke diesel engine works? In two-stroke diesel engine, the 4 events occur in just 2 strokes, the upstroke and downstroke. In the upstroke, there are 2 events, the intake and compression, and in the downstroke, there are also 2 events, the expansion and exhaust. It only requires 2 piston movements to generate power. In 4-stroke diesel engine, the 4 events occur in 4 strokes. The piston travels down for 1 stroke on intake, up for compression, down for power, and up for exhaust. It requires 4 piston movements in order to generate power. And that's how the 4 events in 2-stroke diesel engine and 4-stroke diesel engine works.
Good day everybody. This day I will be discussing about the 2-stroke engine and 4-stroke engine events. So first, the 2-stroke engine. The end of the combustion stroke and the beginning of the compression stroke happen simultaneously with the intake and the exhaust. 2-stroke piston rises and compressions. Its underside pulls up a partial vacuum in the crankcase. An intake port of some kind opens, allowing the air to rush into the crankcase. While the 4-stroke engine, the events are intake, compression, combustion, and exhaust. As the piston moves during each stroke, it turns the crankshaft. First event is the intake. In this stroke, the intake valve must be in the open position, while the piston pulls an air-fuel mixture in the cylinder by producing vacuum pressure. Second is the compression. In this stroke, the piston compresses the air-fuel mixture in preparation for ignition. So during the power stroke, both the intake and exhaust valve are closed during this stage. The third is the combustion. The compressed air-fuel mixture is ignited by a spark plug, or by heat generated by high compression, forcefully returning the piston to bottom dead center. As the exhaust stroke, the piston once again returns to the bottom dead center to top dead center, while the exhaust valve.
Hello, I am about to discuss the 4 events of the 2-stroke and the 4-stroke diesel engine. The 2-stroke engine works by combining more functions into one piston movement. During the upward movement of the piston, it compresses the air-fuel mixture in the combustion chamber. Underneath the piston, a fresh mixture of fuel air in the hermetically closed crankcase. The 4-stroke diesel engine. The first stroke, the piston moves down, allowing the fuel air mixture to enter the chamber. The second stroke, the piston moves up, compressing the fuel air mixture. The third, the piston moves down due to the combustion and explosion force. The fourth stroke, the piston moves up and discharges the combustion residues. In 2-stroke engine, 1 revolution of the crankshaft is equal to 1 power stroke, while in the 4-stroke engine, 2 revolutions is equal to 1 power.
4-stroke diesel engine works in a process. First is the suction stroke. With pistons moving downwards and the opening of the inlet valve creates the suction of clean air into the cylinders. Compression stroke. With the closing of inlet valve, the area above the piston gets closed. The piston moves up, resulting in compression of air in a confined space under high compression ratio. Combustion process. The injector sprays the diesel into the combustion chamber. The rise in temperature of the air caused by its compression results in instantaneous burning of diesel with an explosion. This causes heat to release, which generates expanding forces known as power. Power stroke. These forces push the pistons downward, resulting in the reciprocating motion. Exhaust stroke. The piston pushes the exhaust gases above them through the exhaust valve, which opens during the exhaust stroke. 2-stroke diesel engine process. Compression stroke. The inlet port opens. The air-fuel mixture enters the chamber and the piston moves upwards, compressing these mixtures. This increases the air temperature in the cylinder to such a high degree that atomized diesel fuel injected into the combustion chambers ignites spontaneously and begins the power stroke. Power stroke. The heated gas exerts high pressure on the piston. The piston moves downward. Waste heat exhaust.
I'm gonna explain today how this and this works.
2-stroke diesel engine.
inlet port, piston. So the air can go in the piston, the cylinder, because the piston covered the inlet port. So as the piston goes down, the air goes in, and then it combust, then exhaust. 2-stroke.
4-stroke diesel engine.
Inlet, compress, combustion, outlet.
In the 4-stroke diesel engine, one event is equal to 1 stroke. Intake stroke, the air enters into the cylinder. Compression stroke, the air is being compressed. Power stroke or working stroke, after the injection of the fuel and being combusted. Exhaust stroke pushes the exhaust gas outside the cylinder. Thus, 2 revolution of crankshaft is equal to 1 power or working stroke of the cycle. In the 2-stroke diesel engine, these 4 events are incorporated. As the piston reaches the bottom dead center, it uncovers the inlet ports and the air enters. As it goes up, it compresses the air. Then injected with the fuel, combustion occurs, and working or power stroke happens. Simultaneously, as it goes down, the exhaust is released. Then the cycle repeats. Thus, 1 revolution of the crankshaft is equal to 1 power or working stroke of the cycle.
The 4 events of 2-stroke and 4-stroke diesel engine. First, the 2-stroke diesel engine. So it works by combining the 4 cycle, the intake, compression, combustion, and exhaust in only 2 strokes. So when the piston is near the BDC, the air is admitted into the cylinder. When the piston will rise up, the air is compressed. When the piston is near the TDC, the fuel is injected, then causes a combustion. Because of expansion of gases, the piston will goes down, and the exhaust port will open to expel the high-pressure combustion gases. In 4-stroke diesel engine also have a 4 cycle that happens in separate stroke. As the piston moves from TDC to BDC, the air is drawing from the inlet valve. When the piston moves from BDC to TDC, the air is compressed and injected a fuel and creates a combustion. The burning of fuel creates an expansion of gases, making the piston to move from TDC to BDC. The outlet valve is now open. So, as the piston moves upward, it pushes the borne gases to go out.
4-stroke engine. Suction stroke. The piston moves from the top dead center to the bottom dead center, drawing air from the inlet valve while the outlet valve is closed. In compression stroke, the piston moves upward, compressing the air and the fuel to make a highly combustible mixture. At this point, the spark plug fires, sending the piston downward from the expansion of air and a fuel mixture. This is the combustion stroke. Exhaust stroke, the piston moves upward, then the exhaust valve opens to release the burned air fuel mixtures. Then the cycle continues. 2-stroke engine, 1 revolution is equal to 1 power stroke. So only 2 processes in the compression stroke. The inlet port opens, the air fuel mixtures enters the chamber, and the piston moves upward, compressing this mixture. Then it will be ignited with the spark plug. Then the power stroke begin, in which the heated gas exerts high pressure on the piston, and it will be moved downward, then heat is exhausted.
The 4-stroke diesel engine works on 4 cycles: the suction stroke, compression stroke, working stroke, and exhaust stroke. In the suction stroke, the air is stuck into the cylinder since the intake valve is open. In the compression stroke, the fuel injector spray fuel to the hot compressed air, which ignites and results to combustion. The working stroke, the gas expands due to the heat of combustion exert pressure on the piston. Then the exhaust stroke, the exhaust valve is open, which allow the burnt gas to escape because of their own expansion. The 2-stroke diesel engine has almost the same procedure 4-stroke diesel engine, but it has only 2 cycles: the upward stroke and the downward stroke. In the upward stroke, the air from the scavengers are allowed to suck into the cylinder, and at the same time, the air here is compressed. Then the fuel injector injects, which ignites, then result to combustion. In the power, then during the downward stroke, the exhaust valve is open, which allow the burn gases to escape.
How intake, compression, combustion, and exhaust took place in a 2-stroke and a 4-stroke engine cycle. First, let's discuss 4-stroke engine. Its first stroke, the piston moves down, drawing in the fuel-air mixture to the combustion chamber. Second stroke, the piston moves up and compresses the mixture. Third stroke, the piston moves down due to the combustion of the explosion force. Fourth and last stroke, the piston moves up, displacing the combustion residues. Conclusively, in a 4-stroke engine, each stroke holds one event. Now, let's talk about a 2-stroke engine. It works by combining more function in one piston movement. First, the piston is at BDC, opening the transfer port and filling the combustion chamber with the fuel-air mixture. As it moves up, it compresses the mixture. The spark plug will fire up and combustion will take place. Then the piston moves down. Combustion residues will be replaced by fresh mixture. Thank you.
2-stroke and 4-stroke diesel engines have the same events. In a 4-stroke diesel engine, the intake stroke allows air into the cylinder. Compression stroke, which raises its pressure and temperature. Power stroke, in which fuel is injected to create power. And the exhaust stroke, which drives the burned gases out. They happen within 2 revolutions of crankshaft. 2-stroke diesel engines follow the same events. It has intake stroke, compression stroke, power stroke, and exhaust stroke. In 2-stroke diesel engines, all events happen within 1 revolution of the crankshaft.
Good day, sir. In this video, I discuss on how the 4 events of the 2-stroke and 4-stroke diesel engine work. 2-stroke diesel engine is a diesel engine that requires 1 complete revolution of the crankshaft to complete the 4 series events. Suction stroke and compression stroke happen when the blower delivered first air inside the cylinder and the piston moves up and the air is compressed, raising its temperature. And combustion stroke and exhaust strokes happen when the fuel injector sprays fuel directly into the cylinder and expanding of gases force the piston moves down and the burn gases will start to escape. And 4-stroke diesel engine is a diesel engine that requires 2 complete revolutions of the crankshaft to complete the 4 series events. Suction stroke, air is drawn inside the cylinder. Compression stroke, air is compressed, raising its temperature and the fuel injector sprays fuel. Power stroke, ignition takes place. Exhaust stroke, burn gases will start to escape pushed by the piston.
Four-stroke diesel engines works like this. During the intake stroke, the intake valve opens, allowing the fresh air to enter into the cylinder. As the piston reaches the BDC, the intake valve closes. At this time, both intake and exhaust valve are closed, where the piston compresses the air as it ascends, resulting both pressure and temperature sufficiently high. As the fuel is injected into the cylinder head, the pressure reaches the maximum combustion value, where it creates the self-ignition. Then the exhaust valve opens to expel the combustion gases. While in the 2-stroke diesel engines, when the piston is in downward position, it uncovers the air inlet port, which the cylinder fills with air. At the same time, the exhaust valve opens. When the piston ascends, it covers the air inlet port and the exhaust valve closes. Then the piston will now compress the air, which heated gas exerts high pressure on the piston. Then the diesel fuel is injected into the cylinder head and it immediately ignites and the exhaust gas opens to rush out the exhaust gases.
In a 2-stroke diesel engine, as the piston goes down, exhaust valves open and the air inlet port pushes air into the cylinder. While the piston moves up and reaches top dead center, the fuel injector injects fuel. It simultaneously ignites due to the heat and pressure during the compression of air. In a 4-stroke diesel engine, during the air intake stroke, the inlet valve opens and the piston goes down. The air and fuel mixture enters the cylinder. During the compression stroke, piston goes up, the inlet and the exhaust valve closes, forming a seal. Just before it reaches top dead center, the fuel injector injects fuel, and due to the high heat and pressure, it ignites, forming combustion, which pushes down the piston during the power stroke. During the exhaust stroke, the exhaust valve opens and the piston goes up, forcing the exhaust to go out through the exhaust.
Hi, let me explain to you on how the 4 events work in 2-stroke and 4-stroke diesel engine. The 4 events are the intake, the compression, the combustion, and the exhaust. In 4-stroke, the 4 events can create a 2 revolution. During intake, the piston will goes down, and during compression, the piston will goes up. And it can create a high pressure and temperature so that it can ignite and create a combustion. During combustion, the piston wheel goes down again and it will goes up during exhaust. In two-stroke, the four events can create a one revolution. Why? Because of the combination of the intake and compression. The intake is come from here. It will compress, create high pressure and temperature so that it can combust. Then the gas after the combustion will exhaust directly here. Oh.
Two-stroke, four-stroke diesel engine, how it works. The construction of both engines is similar, but the crucial difference is the presence of transfer port. In the four-stroke diesel engine, the first stroke is suction. Suction valve will open, allowing the fresh fuel-air mixtures draws into the cylinder. Second, compression. The fresh fuel-air mixture compressed through the upward motion of the piston. Third is power. Combustion of fuel generates energy. That's why the piston moves downward. Fourth, exhaust. Exhaust valve will open, allowing the smooth disposal of gases into the exhaust port. Two-stroke diesel engine. First stroke comprises of intake, compressed, and power. In the second stroke, comprises of expansion of the piston and refilling of another fresh fuel-air mixture, and last is exhaust of the gases.
How the four events in two-stroke diesel engine and four-stroke diesel engine works. In two-stroke diesel engine, the four event occurs in just two strokes, the upstroke and the downstroke. The upstrokes, there are two events, the intake and the compression. In the downstroke, there are also two events, the expansion and exhaust. It only requires two piston movement to generate power. In four-stroke diesel engine, the four events occurs four-stroke. The piston travels down for one stroke on intake, up for compression, down for power, and up for exhaust. It requires four piston movements to generate power. And that's how the four events, two-stroke diesel engine and four-stroke diesel engine works. Thank you.
So in two-stroke cycle diesel engine, the suction and exhaust strokes are eliminated. There are only two strokes remaining, and these are the compression stroke and power stroke. Usually they are called the upward stroke and power stroke. Instead of valves, there are inlet and exhaust ports in two-stroke cycle engines. The burned exhaust gas are forced out through the exhaust port via fresh charge, which enters the cylinder nearby at the end of the working stroke throughout the inlet port. So in two-stroke, one power is obtained in each revolution to complete its cycle. While in the four-stroke cycle diesel engine, it operates in diesel cycle or constant pressure cycle. Since ignition in these engines is due to temperature of the compressed air, they are also called compression, which ignites engines. In four-stroke, one power stroke is obtained in every two revolutions to complete its cycle. So that would be all.
The four event in a two-stroke engine and a four-stroke engine. In a two-stroke engine, the piston move upward, compressing the air mixture and allowing it to be ignited in a combustion chamber caused by the spark plug. As soon as the charge is ignited, the hot gases force the piston to move downward, rotating the crankshaft, which make the exhaust port be uncovered. The burnt gases escape through the exhaust port, and as soon as the transfer port open, a new air mixture enter to the cylinder. While in a four-stroke engine, the piston move downward, the air is sucked into the cylinder. The air is compressed as the piston move upward. So, the expansion of gases due to heat of combustion exert a pressure to the piston, allowing the piston to move downward. And as soon as the piston move upward again, the remaining gases are pushed to the atmosphere.
Today, I'll discuss the four events in two-stroke and four strokes. The four strokes are intake strokes, with which the piston moves downward to the bottom. This increases the volume to allow a fuel-air mixture to enter the chamber. Next, the compression stroke. The intake valve is closed and the piston moves up to the chamber to the top. This compresses the fuel-air mixture. At the end of this stroke, the spark plug provides the compressed fuel with the activation energy required to begin the combustion. Next, the power stroke. As the fuel reaches to the end of the combustion, the heat released from the combusting hydrocarbons increases the pressure, which causes the gas to push down on the piston and create the power output. Lastly, exhaust stroke. As the piston reaches the bottom, the exhaust valve opens. The remaining exhaust gas is pushed out to the piston as it moves back upward. And in the two strokes are compressed stroke. The inlet port opens, the air-fuel mixture enters the chamber, and the piston moves upward, compressing the mixture. A spark plug ignites the compressed fuel and begins the power stroke. Lastly, the power stroke. The heated gas exerts high pressure on the piston. The piston moves downward, waste heat is exhausted.
So we're going to talk about how four events, the intake, the compression, the combustion, and exhaust works in two-strokes and four-stroke engines. So the first stroke of the four-stroke engine is the intake, and the second stroke is the compression, and the third stroke is the combustion, and last, the fourth stroke is the exhaust. And it is very clear that in every stroke,
Two-stroke diesel engine. The first stroke is when the piston goes upward motion and then intakes fuel by means of fuel injection and then compresses it. The second stroke is when the piston goes downward motion by means of expansion and then exhausts. The next is the four-stroke diesel engine. There are four stages in four-stroke diesel engine. One is when the piston goes downward motion to intake fuel-air mixture, and the second one is the piston goes up to compress the fuel-air mixture. When that happens, combustion occurs that expands the volume, pushing the piston downwards, and because of momentum, the piston will go back to upward motion, and exhaustion happens to exhaust the gas. That is the difference between two-stroke diesel engine and four-stroke diesel engine. Thank you. Two-stroke diesel engine. The first stroke is when the piston goes upward motion and then intakes fuel by means of fuel injection and then compresses it. The second stroke is when the piston goes downward motion by means of expansion and then exhausts. The next is the four-stroke diesel engine. There are four stages in four-stroke diesel engine. One is when the piston goes downward motion to intake fuel-air mixture, and the second one is the piston goes up to compress the fuel-air mixture. When that happens, combustion occurs that expands the volume, pushing the piston downwards, and because of momentum, the piston will go back to upward motion, and exhaustion happens to exhaust the gas. That is the difference between two-stroke diesel engine and four-stroke diesel engine. Thank you.